Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, so what some of the work that we do is like I'm talking about brand foundation here, but we also do naming. We do visual identity, which is logo, color palettes, things like that. We do content creation. And one of the reasons that we do these, the gamut, we don't do every type of marketing. That we just can't specialize in everything. But what we are able to do is bring the brand to life through the name. So, if, like people will say, "Oh, naming's easy. You just come up with like something catchy." It has to be more thought out than that. It has to align back to like your core principles, what people need from you. The reason is that like your name has to telegraph what you do. Your name has to telegraph who you're a product for. Your name has to telegraph like what you believe in. So it's more than just like a handle that differentiates you from other people. Absolutely. And so that's a lesson. I mean, and it sounds very simplistic the way because you broke it down very nicely, but it is so difficult for many brands or marketers to grasp that that is truly the thing you need to do is not sell the spec, not sell the product. And like you said, like the whole isn't really what we're after. The end result is I'm hanging a picture on the wall. I forgot the example. You use oh TV. Like I want to put a TV on the wall. I mean, like, that's the thing I want. I want to relax, and this drill is going to help make that thing happen. So when we're selling a product or a service, we have to remember there's a thing that people are like. Nobody runs out and says, "Oh, I really need a mouse for my computer." No, what they need is I need to be able to use my computer, or I need to be able to create artwork. I need to be able to, you know, write something. That's the thing I need to do. And the mouse or piece of hardware makes that happen. It's true. It's true. So a lot of our work is with startups and entrepreneurs and business leaders. And these are generally companies. And I just happen to have a soft spot for these types of organizations. And I really enjoy working with founders. I think there's just a lot of energy with them. But one of the things that I've noticed versus working with a large company like Delta Airlines or Bose, where there's a really develop marketing capability or organization. People who are just starting out don't have the experience. They don't have like the wins. They haven't seen that, oh, okay, social media works. Or they haven't seen that the email campaign works. They haven't seen that this, like going down this process, this is how we name a company. They haven't seen how that works. And so there's a lot of fear, right? I mean, we all have fear. So it like sometimes I think of this as like brand therapy. It's like helping people along to the answer that I believe to be correct, to the thing that I've seen work over the past 25 years. So yeah, there's some coaching involved in everything we do, right? I mean, like we're we're all coaches in some degree. I mean, I know you're a coach at a different level, but um, we're all always trying to help people move from one mindset to another or some challenge to another.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Define Your Purpose. Joining me today is Stace from Trust Deep Branding, Stace Caseria, out of Sudbury, Massachusetts. And Stace, I've been so impressed by all the marketing experience that you have put into your company there. Um, Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you got started in marketing.
Sure, sure, absolutely. So as a kid, I always loved words. I loved to sit and read. We used to have this massive dictionary, and I would just pour through it and look at the words. I wouldn't memorize them or anything, but I would just read them. And also had a large set of encyclopedias, and I would just read this. This was before the digital age, of course. And I would just read through this, and I just loved discovering new words or topics. So when I got to college, naturally, I didn't study English. I studied physics. So I was always really interested in science. I spent a year or two studying physics. But what I realized was I wasn't going to make a very good physicist because you have to be incredibly intelligent, and I didn't have the right kind of skill set, but I still really loved language. So I went into English. I have a master's degree in English from SUNY Binghamton, and I became a writer right after graduating from graduate school. I worked at Mad Magazine. That was my first paid writing job. Was yeah, it was amazing. I yeah, it was like one of the highlights of my my life working at Mad. And after that, I realized I needed to get like a quote a real job. So I went into marketing as a copywriter and spent many years in the field. And I realized a few years ago that there was something specific that I wanted to do in the field of marketing, and that was trying to figure out the science behind customer loyalty, how people can become more loyal to a brand, or how a brand becomes more loyal to its customers or to its employees, or how do we build those person to person connections. So that's what I focus on today.
Mm. Yeah, some brands become life changing to people. They become so dedicated to them, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's really, I guess, interesting for brands, for branding for me, is that we don't relate or connect to or have loyalty to things. We connect to people, or sometimes outcomes of things, or processes or experiences that we're in. We have to put part of ourselves into whatever the thing is that we form loyalty to. So the better brands understand this, and they build what I call a human brand, a brand that isn't just a product or a service. It's a brand that's alive to us in some way. We can relate to it because it has some either empathy for us, or alignment of interests, or we share some connection with that brand. That's when you really are on a different level with a brand versus something that you just buy in a transactional relationship, and you may not choose them again in the future. But those brands that get it, that really understand, they like burrow deep into our heart because they mean something to us. And that's what I hope all brands can achieve, because it's actually a much better way for us to exist as consumers of things, as people in society, is having a better connection with something rather than just transactional relationships.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you must have realized this early on in your marketing career about brands. I mean, you started with some really big names, right?
Oh yeah. So from early on, I did have um, I guess the good fortune to work at some really top notch advertising agencies. So the first client I worked on was Merck, which was a large pharmaceutical company. Since then, I worked on Heineken, Cadillac, Delta Airlines, Panasonic, Bose, all these big household names. And sometimes I was really surprised at how well they did marketing, and sometimes I was really surprised at how poorly, or how they lacked a grasp on what people really needed from them. And so uh, I was always, you know, that's what drove me down this path. Is I'm like, wait a second, we're at the worst case scenario, we're trying to gain engagement with client or customers, or like likes, or incremental sales or things like that. And I said, that's not the path to loyalty. That's like, if we start down the path and say we want to create more sales, we want to boost revenue, that's not the path to get people like me or you or any of your viewers here to be loyal to something. You have to start from a different place, a place of trying to find out what's important to people and delivering on that better than anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's. I mean, I guess that's what creates the long term customer, right?
Yeah. When something has meaning to us, so we're both here in Massachusetts, and I'd like to use this as an example. Is like, so if I go to a Red Sox game, I might be sitting next to somebody who I don't know, and they're a stranger, and we might have completely different political beliefs or ideologies, but in that moment, we're united around the team because we have a shared belief or a common experience, and that is hoping the Red Sox win, right? So that's the same with brands. It's like, so like typically, or you'd imagine, like, I don't really have anything in common with the brand other than I buy their product. But deeper than that, I could have something deeper, and I can have something in common with them if they realize what's important to me, and if they happen to share those same values. Like, nobody wants, inauthentic brands like that are just like making stuff up or saying things that aren't true, or like pretending that their values are this when their actions are something else. But when there's that true alignment, that's when we're really aligned on something that's more important than the product or service, and our relationship goes beyond that. That's when we have real loyalty.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. So you help clients find that now then. That's what your agency does?
Yeah, so the beginning of, so I'll back up a little. So there's this whole realm of things called marketing, and within that, there's this sub um, some sub study called branding. And so people will say, "Oh, what's the difference between branding and marketing?" Brand Branding and brand development is a subset of marketing. It's the foundation of it, though. So there are lots of different pieces of marketing. But when we think about a brand that wants to go to market, or if they want to launch a product or something like that, they have to first understand the foundation of it. What is this product really good at, or who does it help, or what are the pain points it solves? That's what we help our clients understand. We give them clarity on what they do better than somebody else, what their differentiators are, what people need from them. And then the second step is, after you define it, going out and communicating it. So there are a lot of businesses and brands that will be advertising and spending money on marketing, and they don't really quite have the clarity to understand how they're going to differentiate themselves from other competitors, or how they're going to really resonate, or how they're going to find the 20% of consumers who are going to become 80% of their business. That's what we help people do, is like really understand what they're all about, so that when they go and talk about it, they're talking about the right things.
Yeah, I think so many businesses fall in the trap of wanting to be everything to everybody and trying to make everybody their customer. And I feel like that never ends well.
It doesn't end well for either party. It doesn't end well for the customer. It doesn't end well for the brand. So the brand's going to end up spending a lot of money and have a lot of wasted effort, but they're going to end up attracting, and they will be successful in attracting some of the wrong people. And those wrong people are not going to have a good brand experience. So in my mind, I would say to somebody, it's better to have no experience with a customer or a brand having that relationship, rather than a negative relationship, because the last thing you want someone to do is tell their friends about this awful experience they had with a brand, whether it's a car or a pair of shoes or a restaurant or something like that. If you don't set the expectations correctly, if you don't have a good understanding of who you're best for, you're going to waste a lot of money, and you're going to probably frustrate a lot of people.
Right. And I guess what value that you're delivering too, I guess you have to have a really clear idea of how you're going to deliver that value systematically, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like, having those things nailed down is part of brand strategy. And so, if you think about building a house, so the brand strategy is the foundation, and then the marketing is going to be the outward part of the house that we see: the siding, the doors, the windows, the hardware, the trees in front of it. That's all the marketing. But the foundation is that thing at the bottom that's like holding everything up, and that's where your brand is.
Mm. So it really stretches then into every aspect of the marketing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, so what some of the work that we do is, like, I'm talking about brand foundation here, but we also do naming. We do visual identity, which is logo, color palettes, things like that. We do content creation, and one of the reasons that we do these, the gamut. We don't do every type of marketing. We just can't specialize in everything. But what we are able to do is bring the brand to life through the name. So, if, like, people will say, "Oh, naming's easy. You just come up with like something catchy." It has to be more thought out than that. It has to align back to like your core principles, what people need from you. The reason is that, like, your name has to telegraph what you do. Your name has to telegraph who you're a product for. Your name has to telegraph like what you believe in. So it's more than just like a handle that differentiates you from other people. it needs to tell us something in an instant, right? So like we see a name on a billboard, on a business card, on a website, whatever it is, it needs to do something quickly, and it can't just be like somebody's name. That's one of my least favorite naming architectures is when people name a business after themselves. I mean, if you're an artist, maybe that's fine. But like when we see, like Joe Smith Plumbing, I'm like, hey, Joe, there were a lot of better names than that. A name that would evoke something to me. If it were like, like spotless shower plumbing, I'm like, okay, at least I understand the benefit. At least I understand what you care about. Yeah.
I think the result that people are after is what is important to put first. I heard a good example is that people don't buy the drill, they buy the hole, but they're not even buying a hole, they're buying to be able to mount their TV and sit at home in their living room and watch their TV on the wall. So it has nothing to do really with selling how good the drill is or how fast it spins or how easy it is to hold or any of that stuff. Nobody who is buying it is really, that's not really what they're interested in.
Absolutely. And so that's a lesson. I mean, and it sounds very simplistic the way because you broke it down very nicely, but it is so difficult for many brands or marketers to grasp that that is truly the thing you need to do is not sell the spec, not sell the product. And like you said, like the whole isn't really what we're after. The end result is I'm hanging a picture on the wall. I forgot the example you used. Oh, TV. Like I want to put a TV on the wall. I mean, like that's the thing I want. I want to relax, and this drill is going to help make that thing happen. So when we're selling a product or a service, we have to remember there's a thing that people are like. Nobody runs out and says, "Oh, I really need a mouse for my computer." No, what they need is I need to be able to use my computer, or I need to be able to create artwork. I need to be able to, write something. That's the thing I need to do. And the mouse or piece of hardware makes that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even, I see big companies getting confused about that too sometimes. I mean, advertising has always interested me since I was a kid as well. I guess kind of like yourself. I was always fascinated with, when you'd watch cartoons and the ads would come on, and I, some people would be frustrated that the ad was on, but I would be observing different aspects of the ad and how it was storytelling, just like the show, except this story was supposed to make people go do something.
And so as you were watching that, you're sort of understanding what the game was, right? Or not the game, but you're understanding like the end goal. Like here's somebody who's telling me a story for a purpose. That's interesting. So were there any I'm curious, any of those TV spots that stick out to you even years later?
I think the cereal ads, because they would be cartoons as well, and then you would get a free prize in the cereal. So it was like more of your show and you get free stuff. So more, what's in it for me?
Right. Right. So I think some of those advertisers understood that what Carl wanted wasn't to learn about cereal. Carl wanted to be entertained. So they entertained you. I mean, so that's a good example. I mean, it's also easy to entertain kids, but they understood what you were like, why you were sitting down. You weren't sitting down to, talk, like learn about nutrition or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But of course, at the same time, they're making the stuff with the nutrition on the box for mom.
Yeah. So, did you have anybody in your family who worked in advertising, or did you know anybody, or is this just a pursuit that you had?
um, well, my parents both kind of had entrepreneurial endeavors for some time, even though they were both professors most of the time. My dad started a computer company for a while, and um, that was when I was really young, and I guess some of the guys that he partnered with, it didn't work out so well, and so they ended up splitting ways. But um, it just makes you wonder what things would have been like if he had stuck with it. Or my mom had a nonprofit school for kids. That she was a kindergarten teacher, so it was a kindergarten organization that she was trying to build. And um, and then I guess they ended up voting her off the board and out of the organization. So I guess both my parents ended up partnering with people that it didn't work out well for them. So
Well, it sounds like I'm sure they learned some some valuable lessons, some life lessons. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean it, it's important to keep evolving, I think, and not give up on your ideas, and keep moving forward. Um, I think you have to get past the failures to get to the successes, and if you don't, you can't just not put in the failures and go right to the successes. So
Yeah, they don't exist, right? The successes live outside of the failures, and we've got to march through them. And sometimes they're difficult, and sometimes it's like we don't know if they're out there on the other side. Uh, yeah, I heard something interesting yesterday. I heard uh, I think it was an Instagram reel that I was taking a look at, and this woman said, if you're whenever you're in a negative mindset, like trying something that's not working, like ask yourself, but what if it works? So I mean, it's like we always have to like keep hope that there's a potential for this thing that we're doing, whether it's a business venture or a relationship or a you know working on your house or whatever. Like this thing could work. I mean, there's always the possibility that this is going to work really well. So like, not to give up when we have those hard moments.
yeah, and so many times people end up asking themselves, "What if it doesn't work?" And I think it's such a better question to ask. What if it does? Because your mind starts to create the outcome that you imagine. So you're imagining it not working. So if you create all the ways in which it won't work in your mind, it's just like trying to avoid the telephone pole while you're skidding in the car. If you're looking at the telephone pole, that's where the car is going to go. If you look away from the pole and around it, you skid around it. That's it's almost like a law of physics. You can't It's like you can't think about something you don't want to do. Because all your mind hears is the thing. It doesn't hear the don't or the not. I don't know. I'm sure you go through things like this with clients and marketing clients too. I think that there's coaching involved in all kinds of different fields and that people work in.
It's true. So a lot of our work is with startups and entrepreneurs and business leaders, and these are generally companies. And I just happen to have a soft spot for these types of organizations, and I really enjoy working with founders because I think there's just a lot of energy with them. But one of the things that I've noticed versus working with a large company like Delta Airlines or Bose, where there's a really developed marketing capability or organization, people who are just starting out don't have the experience, and they don't have like the wins. They haven't seen that, oh, okay, social media works, or they haven't seen that an email campaign works. They haven't seen that this, like going down this process, this is how we name a company. They haven't seen how that works. And so there's a lot of fear, right? I mean, we all have fear. So it's like sometimes I think of this as like brand therapy. It's like helping people along to the answer that I believe to be correct, to the thing that I've seen work over the past 25 years. So yeah, there's some coaching involved in everything we do, right? I mean, like we're we're all coaches in some degree. I mean, I know you're a coach at a different level, but um, we're all always trying to help people move from one mindset to another or some challenge to another.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. Nobody gets there alone. We all need support. um, I I wonder if someone is looking for help with their brand. What are some considerations, and um, how should they go about things?
Yeah, so it is. I would not say it's insurmountable initiative to begin thinking about your brand. Everybody has to start somewhere, but the beginning part of it is can be very confusing. You might be going in many different directions. It's sometimes helpful to get an outside perspective. So whether that's an agency or a consultant or a friend who's done this before or somebody who works in marketing, we love to work with anybody who needs our help. But I think that a lot of times businesses can, or somebody who's starting a business can get a little bit of a head start just by talking to somebody, having conversations about their business, what they hope to do, what they want to achieve, their goals, the things that matter most to them. Because something that I caution people is never use money as a goal. Like, so if you say to somebody, "So what's the goal of this business?" "Oh, we want to have like fantastic sales, a lot of revenue." Well, that's not a goal. That's an outcome of what you're doing. So I want people to understand, like, think about your goal. And the kinds of businesses and business leaders that we work best with are people who want to do something more than just sell a product or a service. People who want to help the world in some way. And it can be anything, whether it's, I mean, we don't have to always talk about, you know, large organizations or charitable organizations. You can help somebody with any product, whether it's bottled water, like shoes, mayonnaise, like air conditioners, like whatever it is, you can improve the world in some way if you can improve somebody's life, because that will help improve the people that they touch. So I always like to find people or tell people, like, look for the thing that's really good. What's the really good outcome that you could help cause, like you could help create, and focus on that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's really key to coaching too. That you're believing in the client's best possible self, and um, being a stand for that self, and being a voice for that self, so that becomes real for them, and they give up the limiting beliefs and are able to achieve what they need to, and what they know they should.
Right. It's interesting when you talk about self. This is something that I say to people that we're working with when we're trying to give them some clarity. I always say the answers are all inside of you. You have the answer. You have to get it out though, and the way that it comes out is by asking questions or considering it or thinking about it. And that's why I really think, like, conversations, like even before you start working with a branding or a marketing agency or something, have conversations, ask yourself questions. You're going to get to a certain level, but you need somebody else to help you, move to the next step, whether it's like building a brand or somebody who needs some coaching that you provide. It all comes from, like, those questions and asking and figuring things out. And you're like, finally people get it, and they're like, oh, now I understand. So
Yeah, yeah. I maybe you've heard of the five whys. That you keep asking people why something's important, and lots of times it takes about five times before you really get down to the bone of what matters to them. I think people get kind of covered up in uh, everybody else's priorities, but their own sometimes.
yeah, no, the five whys are incredibly helpful. So we use a lot of different um, exercises in our brand work, and sometimes we'll use the five whys. But I like to always think about, like, I will meet a client first and try to understand what they are before we go into a brand workshop or brand discovery, and I'll pick the exercises that we're going to do. But five whys is really useful, because everybody relates to it, and you can do it without actually calling it an exercise. You can just like ask a question. You can just start there. Something I've noticed is like once people know they're sort of like in a session of some sort, they are a little bit more reserved. But if you can sort of spring it on them with like the five whys, just start asking questions and you go down that path and they're fueling it, right? So like once they get to like after the second one, then they start wanting to think, they become more curious themselves. Like, wait a second, I didn't think about this a minute ago, but what's like, where is this thing going? So they'll want to play along.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, because if people want someone to care about them, really. I mean, to feel like someone's taking care of your well-being is, it's hard to find these days. Someone that really cares about you.
It is. It's right. Um, but it's certain it's out there. It's just it's probably harder to find, and it's you also have to find people who align with what you want, or align with your values. You asked before at the beginning of the call. You said, maybe I can talk about a success story, and I just want to mention quickly one of the clients we worked with. So we interview all of our clients before we start working with them because we want to sort of see if they're going to be a good fit for us and our philosophy, or if we're going to be a good fit for them, right? So there has to be good synergy. But there was a doctor who came to us and he wanted to launch a telehealth practice, and that's nothing new, right? I mean, so especially after the pandemic, we know that telehealth is something that exists. And in that first call with him, I said, "Well, why do you want to do this?" And so I was expecting the answer to be, because he wanted to make a lot of money or something. And it wasn't. I was really happy that he didn't say that. He said, personally, I have been a patient of the medical system and I see where the flaws are. I see how I've needed a maintenance medication and I've had to wait months for a doctor's visit and I have to take time off of work to go see a doctor, even though I'm a doctor. I go and see, and then I'm in there for like 45 seconds. The doctor asks me one question, writes a prescription, a refill, and I leave. He said, I can afford to do this, but there are people who can't afford to take time off of work. There are people who can't afford to like, go to the doctor's visit and all that. And there are people who they just can't wait. He said, like, I want to change this in some way. I can't affect the whole system, but I can start changing the lives of a handful of patients and then more patients and next year to be like double. And I said, okay, this is the kind of client we want. Somebody who wants to not just do his job, but improve society in some way. So that's the kind of client that we really like. We helped launch his brand. We named him. We gave him a logo, gave him the whole brand foundation, and he went off. And then he came back a couple months later. He said, "Hey, would you guys do social media for us?" So we're happy he came back. But that's like the alignment that I'm talking about. It's like that's something that I care about. That's something that he cared about. Boom, we worked together. Like we had a good relationship versus, there are lots of businesses who just have a more transactional mindset.
Yeah, yeah, and that can be so hard to figure out the different pieces of the brand, I guess, because you have the motto and the logo and the message and the purpose and the the business plan, and all these things kind of hit you at once when you're new, and starting your business. So what does it look like for maybe someone who is a new business owner and, kind of facing that sort of confusion, and they come to you? What would it look like?
Yeah. Um, we actually created a guide based on actually the client that I mentioned, the doctor, because he said, "All right, so what do I do now?" And I was like, "Oh, you go and execute your brand." And he's like, "Okay, but how do I do that?" I'm like, "Oh, you're going to hire somebody to do a website, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, you're going to hire somebody to do social media and public relations or whatever you need." I said, "You just you start working with these people, and they're going to take what we've done, the foundation, and bring it to life." And he was like, "I've never done this before." And so a light bulb went off in my head. And I've been working with founders for a long time. And I said, you know what? I need to create something that will help people like Adrian, Dr. Adrian, help him understand what to do with the brand once we create it. So we created a guide that's about branding, and it's boiled down specifically for small business owners, how you, well, first of all, what branding is, what are the elements of it, and why it's important, and then how it fits within the marketing machine. That's one thing. Like, so to answer your question, if somebody wants to know where do I start as a business owner, a guide like that, and I'm sure you can find other guides online. I happen to think ours is really good. It's like 50 plus pages of insight, and we give that away for free. Another thing that you can do is start having conversations with people. So you can have conversations with me, people who help build brands, people who've worked with small businesses, people who've worked with large businesses, to understand where you can sort of fit in your customers' consideration set. You could certainly work with a branding agency. So we try to work with people who are purpose driven, mission driven. Um, but depending on what you're looking for, you'll find an agency that will align with you. But we hope that more and more people will call us.
Yeah, yeah, sure. That's great. So, is that on your website then?
The business guide, yeah, you can also find it on my LinkedIn. So my name is Stace Caseria, but if you go on LinkedIn, just search for Stace Caseria, go to my profile, and it's called, I think, the 2024 guide to launching a business. But it's also on our website under resources.
Okay, great, great. Oh wait, what was the? Let's see, what was the website again? Trustdeepbranding.com.
Trustdeepbranding.com, under resources. You'll find other things there too. So um, we have a mission statement template and a vision statement template. So these are things that are central elements to a business. But if you want a head start on these things, just go and download the template. They're there for free. They're just PDFs. Download them, and it'll get you thinking about what your mission is. So those are helpful resources.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's huge. Really appreciate that. Should be useful to a lot of people. I think it's good to know that's there. Um, so, what are you looking forward to coming up this year? Maybe with the business and all. What are you most excited about?
I would say I'm most excited about finding more customers who align with us. And so there's a point where, having done this for, like I said, like 25 years, there's a point where I just don't want to work with everybody anymore. I think there's an opportunity for me to do something at a higher level, higher order in life. So I'm most excited about finding more people who sort of have a philosophical point of view on bringing their brand or business to life. That's something we haven't really talked about here, is that I do have a philosophical framework that we use that is, I know it's not for everybody, but I love it when I find people who are on the same page. And the that philosophical framework is about building trust. That's why we named our agency Trust Deep. So I think there are three levels of relationship that exist. Any relationship you have with somebody can slot into one of these levels. So people know you, people like you, and people trust you. So thinking about, like, your friends, your family, your dry cleaner, the guy at the gas station, like the guy who does your taxes, whatever it might be, they're all in different levels. They're all in different categories. One of those three. I like to say that knowing somebody happens in the head, liking somebody happens in the heart, but trust is one level deeper in the gut. And that's where our name came from, Trust Deep. So we create trust deep relationships. So I created this framework called the trust dynamic, and it has the four pillars that have to be present in any trustworthy relationship. And that's credibility, track record, empathy, and alignment of interest. So we could talk all day about that, but that, when you ask, like, what is the thing I'm most excited about, it's bringing that to more people and getting more people to resonate with it, because I just believe it's a fundamental need, not just in business but in society too.
Yeah, yeah, and I love it when I can make things happen with clients that I wouldn't have any chance of accomplishing on my own, that almost by helping them do what they want to do, that I have some part in that success myself. So I always find that really rewarding.
It is, right? We all need a job in life, right? We all have to have some sort of pursuit, but it's great when there's something deeper rather than just the paycheck. There's that we're helping people or somehow creating a better world. Our mission as an agency is to to create better relationships to improve society. And I know it's kind of ambitious, but intentionally it's ambitious. And the way we do that is through branding. So we're not out there curing cancer, saving animals, reversing climate change. We can't do those things. I can't do those things. The one thing I know that I know how to do is to create better relationships between people. And I just hope that improves the world a little bit.
Awesome. Right on. It's great. I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me here today, Stace. I hope we can catch up again soon. Maybe we'll have a follow up show later on, and see how you're doing later in the year or something like that.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. I'm really happy that you invited me on, Carl. It was good talking to you.
Thanks. Great. Well, have a awesome weekend, and stay in touch. We'll continue to help each other and grow together.